Hello, and once again it's time for Sweet Tea and a Movie. This week, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. I'm back, and I don't sound sick anymore! So good. So, I actually saw this movie last night, but I got in a little too late, and I was tired, and I went to bed. So I'm doing this a night later. Where to start off? I'll start off with this. The movie is awesome. Definitely awesome. They've been consistently getting more awesome, and this is at its peak so far. And I'm sure the second part's going to be even more awesome. So without further ado, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of this movie. First off, let's start off with the acting of this movie. The main three, Hermione, Harry, and Ron, all do fantastic jobs. I don't remember all their names except for Emma Watson because of a joke me and some friends have, but I'm not going to tell you. But yeah, I'm just going to call them Hermione, Harry, and Ron. Their acting is superb. Most definitely. They've had a lot of time to experience their roles and they know who these characters are. Most definitely. The acting from the supporting cast, just as good. They all take their roles very seriously and they do it all with great conviction and great dialect. Lord Voldemort is scary. He's a very threatening presence without being a loud, overbearing evil man. He's just a slithery snake. And snakes are scary. Just like in the movie. If you've seen the movie, yes, I did jump. Twice. But hey, it's not necessarily jump scares because I usually associate that with horror movies that are trying too hard to be scary when all they can rely on is jump scares. This is more just playing to the source material, I guess. I didn't read the books. And let's get this out of the way right now. I haven't read the books since the fourth one and I barely read that one. I watch these movies for the movies. For the consistency from movie to movie. Not to compare it from the movie to the book, and vice versa. I watch these movies as they are, movies. So all you purists out there, I respect you, so please respect me when I say this movie was awesome, whether they left stuff out, added stuff in, or didn't portray something the way you wanted it to. It's still awesome regardless, so. And I love you. But yes, acting was great. What next? Music. Nothing really stood out in my mind this time. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because from what I do remember, it fit the scenes very well. Good driving music that helped intensify either the action or the emotions that the characters on screen were portraying. And that's always important for music in a movie. Yeah, not much else to say. The music was great. Settings, because I want to touch on that. I was amazed at all the different places that they filmed in. I was thinking, the first thing that popped in my head when all those different places came up, I was like, dang, this is almost like how Christopher Nolan does it, filming like everywhere. But yeah, like I was just blown away with all the different places that they went to. And all the great scenery. Especially that cliff with all the separated looking rocks. It was just, man, this movie had great scenery, most definitely. And the parts where they were inside houses and stuff, that looked great too. Near the final confrontation of the movie, the Malfoy's house, I guess that's their house, I don't really know. That looked cool. I liked it a lot. So yeah, that was settings. Story. Story was very solid. In my opinion, airtight. I didn't read the book, so I'm sure it's not airtight, but as far as movie stories go, very airtight, very solid. Everything kept going, good pace. A little bit of slowdown here and there, but it was necessary to portray the certain events that went on. It had me feeling frightened, it had me feeling expectant at what was going to happen. Comedic bits in the whole story were very natural and very funny. Me and a lot of people in the theater were just laughing a lot at a lot of the subtle humor that came by. I almost cried at the end. I'll be honest. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I won't spoil it, but I almost cried at the end. Yeah. Oh yes, cinematography, because I want to touch on that too. I know something interesting. In the last movie, I didn't really notice any of the handheld camera movements, like where you're holding the camera, it's just like going from side to side and everywhere and stuff. I don't remember any of that in the last movie, but there was plenty of it in this movie. And my personal philosophy for those kinds of camera movements where you're pretty much just holding the camera and like moving it around every place like you're an amateur filmer is that it's appropriate for action scenes, but not for scenes where there's just talking. It's stupid. I hate it. But for this movie, it actually kind of worked out. Probably because there was so much drama that it just kind of worked out. I don't know. It worked for some reason. And also, while we're on the subject of cinematography, I really liked that this movie kind of both continued and broke the tradition of the continually becoming more grayscale-ish in the movies. Because if you remember the first movie, that was a nice, bright, colorful movie. Because, you know, they were all fresh-faced little kids coming into school. By the time we got to the sixth movie, the story had gotten so dramatic that the only way to portray that in a good way as far as lighting went was to make everything still have color, but almost at a grayscale kind of way. This movie still had that, especially in the more evil scenes. Aha, I am Lord Voldemort. Grayscale. Sorry, being silly. You know, and also in some scenes, like the scene at the beach, definitely, that was one of my favorite scenes as far as cinematography goes, just because it was nice and colorful. You know, the camera was just let alone, it took in all the colors of the surroundings, and it looked really good. I guess we're at my final consensus. I give this film... This is hard, because earlier when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about giving it a 10 out of 10 since it didn't really strike me in any way bad, but now that I'm actually kind of reviewing it in front of the camera, I have to go with a 9 out of 10, because it was definitely a good movie, and I would watch it again. Definitely with a group of friends, or, you know, if I was really bored one night, maybe by myself. But it's not a perfect movie. It's not. But not in a bad way. I think the reason it gets 9 out of 10 is just because it's part one, you know? It's build-up. And you can't really expect a build-up film to be perfect, you know? Because, especially for this kind of film, you know, there's so much drama that it kind of rides heavy on you. So that when the comedic bits come by, you especially feel very uplifted, which is definitely a good thing. So I guess the one point off is simply just because it's part one. It's a build-up film. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying build-up films are bad. Build-up films are very good, especially when you're doing part movies, which I think there should be more of. Like, for example, I didn't watch the last Airbender film because I heard it was really bad. There was no redeeming qualities about it except for the special effects, and those were mediocre from what I heard. I feel like maybe if they had done that movie in parts, you know, they could have appealed to a better audience and made better films, but they made stupid choices during the movie, from what I've read and heard. Doing this final movie in parts, I know is a necessity because I remember reading that the book itself is very long, and you can't really expect a book that long, over 1,000 pages, to fit in one movie. You gotta separate it. But I think, just as far as movies go, doing movies in parts is kind of a good idea. If you end it the right way, leaving the audience expectant for something without feeling like they have to see the movie. Like, let me try to explain it this way. You have it end in such a way where the audience wants to see it, not because they feel they have to, but simply because they want the knowledge of what's going to happen in the next part. Whether, in this case, whether they've read the book or not, they want to see the actions on screen. They want to see all the fighting that's going to take place in the second part and all the emotional development that will take place in the second part too. Yeah. Doing movies in parts is great. The first part's never gonna be a 10, I don't think, unless, you know, some blockbuster amazing film comes out where something like that happens. But in any other case, I don't think it's gonna be a 10. So this movie, 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it. Go see it. Peace.